everybody. Welcome to InPsightRadio. I am your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. I honestly love saying that every week. I am such a dork. I love it. I love it. How are you? How is everybody? All right, so we're barreling down into the holidays, and I am loving that the spirit of peace has descended upon the earth. And during this time frame, around our Thanksgiving time, we have an opening in the spirit of humanity. And human beings overall, we get really excited about the idea of being in oneness with one another. That's a real thing. So not only are we excited about this oneness, but we are excited about engaging the oneness with one another. And it's really fun to link into that oneness. And I do recognize that a lot of folks have a lot of problems with how the spirit of peace feels. They have problems with the pressures of the holidays. Of course, we can go on and on and on about how commercialized everything has gotten. And that's a real thing. Of course it is. Yet the spirit of peace is a real entity. I mean, it's a real thing. And it would engage us 24/7 if we would let it. We just don't engage it. We choose to turn our consciousness towards higher thoughts and higher thinking, and thinking about other people in giving thanks and in giving away gifts and moving in that Thanksgiving time frame, especially here in the United States, moving into a space of wanting to do for others. Now, the spirit of peace is not reliant on Christmas or Hanukkah or any of the other particular holidays that roll in December. It's not reliant on that. It is reliant on our willingness to engage it. So hear this. The spirit of peace, which is actually a really good friend of mine, the spirit of peace and I, we go way, way back. I love the spirit. The spirit of peace comes around because we are willing to host it. We are willing to co-create with it. So when it comes around, it's saying, hey, it must be the holidays because you all are thinking about other people. You're thinking about giving to food banks, not all year long, but during Thanksgiving and forward, you're thinking about giving to others. You're buying Christmas presents or Hanukkah gifts because you're thinking about other people during this time frame. So the spirit of peace comes in. We start watching our gushy Christmas movies on Hallmark, and I am such a Christmas movie nerd. You think I like saying you're a fly on the wall to everywhere. You ought to watch me on the couch with a Christmas movie. I am literally just piling through the popcorn. I am crying. I'm going through the Kleenexes because I love the spirit of vulnerability. I love to have a space for miracles happen. I mean, I'm all about that stuff because that's the world in which I dwell with these angels all the time. So I'm not saying that I don't have my bad days, because boy, do I. And I'm not saying that I don't engage the world, because I surely do. Yet I also deeply appreciate the spirit of peace, who wants to come through and melt the crispy edges off of all of us. And when the spirit of peace responds to our call to engage it, and keep in mind, the spirit of peace would be on the earth 24/7 if we would co-create with it. Yet we're too busy co-creating lessons with, misery, suffering, fear, anger, whatever. So the spirit of peace just calmly waits its turn until we want to engage it, until we want to co-create a space of unbelievable giving and compassion and make space for miracles and all the things that we're willing to do in this holiday season in a way that we're not willing to do in the rest of the year. So here comes the spirit of peace. And I get so excited because I love this spirit. It's so joyful and just so soft. And it's a very feminine spirit. For those who were raised in the Christian tradition, the spirit of peace would fall under the Holy Spirit, okay? It's the feminine part of the Trinity that really got the back seat in the Bible because it was the feminine part of the Trinity. So, and very untangible. Yet the spirit of peace engages all of us. And it doesn't matter what religion anybody was raised with, or if you were raised with no religion, the spirit of peace comes in and says, hey, guess what? I am going to help engage with you and we can together manifest anything you want. So the spirit of peace is our one of our most poignant manifestation partners. And it helps us. It brings us, I guess I want to say, fuel to our manifestations. So what we're talking about on today's podcast is debunking some myths of manifestation, yet also bringing through some tools in our feminine time frame, especially during this holiday time, all the way through to the beginning of the year, where we have authored the space to allow the spirit of peace to dwell. And yes, let me just quickly sidebar and say, I recognize that the holidays are very hard for people also. You know, this is a time frame when we feel that vulnerable spirit of peace. Sometimes it's very painful to have that spirit try to permeate our body. And we're like, well, wait a minute, I'm full of pain. I'm full of loneliness. I don't have any family. I don't have anybody to share this with. And you want to come here with your peace and tell me peace on earth, goodwill to men? Stick it up your butt, spirit of peace. I mean, I know there's a lot of people who feel that way, right? And that's okay too. That's part of our human experience. And you know, the spirit of peace is willing to say, okay, well, if that's what you want me to do, I'm there. Whatever makes you happy, man. I'm just here to help you. So when we talk about the spirit of peace descending upon our earth, it's important, first of all, to understand that the spirit of peace is here always. We've just, once again, decided to create a landing strip for the spirit of peace so that we can co-create with it. Okay? So just know that. It's here always. Our consciousness is what creates the helipad for the spirit of peace to come down here and say, woohoo, we get to play together. This is so awesome. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for the landing pad. I have so many gifts for you. Wait till we co-create. It's like if we have Play-Doh and you have that friend that you put the Play-Doh on the desk and you're like, let's make a dinosaur. This is awesome. So knowing that the spirit of peace, we can also give it another name, and that is ultimate manifestation. Ultimate manifestation. The spirit of peace is also the spirit of ultimate manifestation. So what does that tell you? It tells you that peace is a key in ultimate manifestation. Peace with the self, peace with the world, peace with where you're headed in your life path. And what do we have a hard time with, folks? Finding peace, right? It's the missing piece. Okay, don't throw tomatoes. I'm just saying it is the missing piece. It is. So when we're engaging the spirit of peace or the spirit of ultimate manifestation, what is the key to that? And I mean, I'm using the word key loosely. There's obviously lots of ways that we can go about engaging the spirit of peace or the spirit of ultimate manifestation. Yet we only have an hour. So I'm just bullet pointing this sucker like mad for everybody. So here we go. So how do we do that? How do we engage the spirit of peace or the spirit of ultimate manifestation if we ourselves don't feel peaceful? Because I mean, come on. Have you read the newspaper? Have you seen the news? Have you read your Google feed? Oh, man. How do we do that? Well, first of all, we recognize that manifesting is the process of engaging literally the quantum field. It's the process of plugging in to the quantum field. So I want y'all to think about manifestation like, okay, so you got your heart chakra, right? And I want you to reach into your heart chakra and just like the cord on your vacuum cleaner, I want you to find your cord, your electrical cord that's just sitting there because it's all wound up in the heart chakra. And I want you to drag that cord out just like you would your vacuum. And if you let it go, it's going to snap back. And don't do it too hard, ladies, because that can hurt. Okay? So we're going to go get that cord and we're going to just go ahead and stretch it forward. Now, I want you to envision around you a grid, like as far as you can see. Remember that grid paper in 8th grade in algebra? I don't mean to spike any PTSD in anybody here, talking about math. Yet, you know what I'm talking about, right? That grid paper. So imagine that you are immersed in your armpits up to this massive piece of grid paper, like somebody just puts you in a little hole and you're just floating and your arms are just keeping you delightfully poked up, just, your upper body. And as far as you can see, it's grid paper everywhere. That's the quantum field. And as a matter of fact, it's not even a hole that was poked. Somebody just gently set you in the middle of that grid paper, and you're kind of suspended in the middle of it. And it's just warmly snugged up underneath your armpits, all the way around your heart chakra. And there you are holding this cable, this cord that goes into your heart chakra, and you're just sitting there floating. So then you look over to your right, and in this grid paper that you're up to in your armpits, just floating there, and it's all white and it's pretty and it's got its blue lines in every direction, including behind you. And right next to you, you see a little outlet. It just appears on the grid paper. And you're like, wow, that's weird. Okay, I've got grid paper with a flat outlet that's going to fit my plug. So then you take that plug and you stretch it out through the heart chakra and boom, you plug it into the grid paper. You plug it into that outlet and you watch those blue lines for as far as your eyes can see just ripple and start to radiate blue. So they go from being this flat looking blah grid paper with blah blue lines. Pretty soon there's just erupting with blue pulses and it's beautiful and it's for the far as your eye can see. And you're in this beautiful white space with this white grid paper. All of a sudden the white starts to dim out and it starts to go dark and you're floating in space with these blue electrical amazing lines in this grid paper that you're plugged into. You're fueling all of that. Okay? You're fueling that quantum field. Now that quantum field is connected to every single thing in the rest of the universe. That's why you can't see a beginning, middle, and end. So here you are up to your armpits with this blue electrical field just sparking with this grid paper, and it's beautifully dark, and all of a sudden you start to see stars above you, and you start to see stars below you, and you realize you're floating in space up to your armpits in this giant blue electrical grid that's connected to all things in all time zones, and it lit up because you plugged your heart chakra into it. It lit up because you plugged your heart chakra in. So what is it doing? What are all these blue lines doing? Well, these blue lines are igniting, waiting for a directive. Like a fiber optic phone line. It's waiting for you to send a signal into the quantum field. So another signal can come back to you through that electrical cable, right into your heart. So as you're just sitting there floating up in your armpits and you're floating in space and this blue electrical grid is sparking all over the place, in your heart, you go ahead and you formulate the most awesome, joyful desire that you possibly could have. And today we're just going to make that about a job. How about that? So say you're doing a job, you're punching the clock and you kind of hate going to work every day. It kind of makes you want to beat your own face in with a shovel, but you decide you like your face, so you're not going to do that. Instead, you are going to float in this electrical grid of quantum field that's connected to all things that you are powering. And in your heart, you're going to feel that perfect job. Not in your head, gang. Not in your head. Get it out of your head. Don't think about what you want. Feel it. How would it feel to wake up every morning and go to work in a job that made you feel purposeful, that paid you massive amounts of money, that had great vacation when you walked in, or maybe you work from home and people just love what you do. Now, don't make it about what it is yet. They just make it about how it feels. Now, you go ahead and send that feeling of that perfect job. You don't even know what it is, maybe. As a matter of fact, let's take, if you know what it would be, like say, oh, my perfect job would be an airline pilot. Take the airline pilot off. Just feel what it feels like to fly in the air. Feel what it feels like to be so free. Feel what it feels like to have the sun at 35,000 feet beating through that windshield. Feel it. Now, send that feeling through that electrical cable that's going out of your heart chakra, plugged into the quantum field. Go ahead and burst it through, and you see it bursting through like a big ball of reddish-orange light. It just travels up that cable, and it poof, goes through that electrical grid. Now you're watching as it goes through the electrical outlet, you're watching the entire grid start to turn this reddish oranges, and it's taking over all of the blue, as far as the eye can see, whoosh, it washes out into orange and red. And all of a sudden you're floating in space up to your armpits in this beautiful, amazing pinkish red grid that's sparkling and tackling and all of this stuff. And you just sent your greatest desire into the quantum field to find a match. That's how this works. So just float there and enjoy this beautiful view for a minute. You just sent the greatest joyful desire through your heart chakra into the field that connects all things. You just did that, okay? Now the quantum field doesn't know the difference between what you send through that heart chakra, what you create in your mind, or what is happening in, quote, reality. Because guess what? There is no third dimension. There is a particle third dimension, but it's absolutely on the other end of what we feed into the quantum field. It is created, ready for the mind blow? It is created for what we send through the heart chakra, through that electrical outlet that we plug into the quantum field. We create this third dimension in its image. Okay, chew on that for 1 second. So, where we've just put this manifestation, this quantum field that we've just plugged into. So we're feeling that amazing, that job that brings us so much fulfillment. And all of a sudden, way out there in the event horizon in space, we start seeing this brighter hot pink barreling back towards us through this grid. And we look everywhere, as far as we can see, 360 degrees of this hot barreling. Here comes this grid. This grid is lighting up hot pink, hot pink, hot pink. And it's kind of rolling towards us, and it's a little bit scary. And we're like, should we unplug ourselves from this grid? No, don't do it. Stay there. Because as that grid is barreling towards you, hot pink, and it poof hits that socket that is in the electrical grid that you are plugged into. And all of a sudden you see this poof, this big hot pink ball rolling up through the electrical cable that's attached to your heart chakra. You're watching that ball just ripple up and go all the way and move all the way in and down into your heart chakra, and poof! Your heart chakra is filled with hot pink, absolute probability. And then the phone rings. And pop, all of a sudden you're kind of out of that space. You're like, what the heck happened there? Oh, I'm in my bedroom. That was weird. I was driving. That was weird. What happened? My phone is ringing. And you pick up the phone, and it's a brother-in-law or sister-in-law that says, the weirdest thing just happened. I was talking to a friend of mine that is looking for an airline pilot. And I know you were kind of thinking of that, so I don't even know if you're interested, but I thought I'd pass it on to you. Now, I may have exaggerated on the timing there. However, that is exactly what happens when we put our manifestations into the quantum field. So that is ultimate manifestation. And another name for that quantum field can be Mother, Father, God. Another name for that quantum field, if you are working with it in a place of love, is the spirit of peace. So when I talk about engaging the spirit of peace during this time frame, I am talking about engaging ultimate joy. And I know it's really hard because in this world, there's not a lot of joy to be had. But there is all joy to be had. It is completely in our perception. Our perception dictates how the heck we're going to experience this world and how we're going to take our vacuum cleaner stretchy cable out of our heart chakra and plug it into that graph paper to light it up into the quantum field, to put the desires of our heart into that quantum field so it can go out in its grid and find what we ultimately need that will fulfill every single need that we have and bring it back to us and blow us up from the inside. Yet we're so busy focusing on our Google feed that we don't take the time to do that. Now, one of the things I want to bring forward here is that if you do take the time to do that, the quantum field must return to you a like or greater object. It's a boomerang. It's spiritual physics. So whatever you sent down that stretchy cable that you took out of your heart chakra and plugged into the electrical outlet of the quantum field, it's going to bring that back to you. So let's talk about how much time we spend in our heart chakra harboring hurt feelings and negative feelings. Now, it's not to demonize any of those things. We're human. Those are our teachers. It is important to acknowledge our wounds so that they can teach us about our strengths and our transfiguration abilities and our transformational abilities. So I'm not talking about erasure here, people, all right? I'm not talking about, bad feelings, bad, good feelings, good. We're not going there. I'm simply saying the quantum field does not distinguish between a good choice for us and what we would consider a negative choice. The quantum field reacts to whatever we are pumping into it through our heart chakra. Now, when we're talking about manifestation, I've talked to so many brilliant people. And I have clients all over the world, calling for, it's exhilarating to me, calling from South Korea and Australia and Denmark. And I get to connect on that quantum level to these incredible folks all over the place. And I get to feel the places that they call from. And it's such a rush for me. And it's such a gift to be able to do that. Yet it's also important to remember when we are engaging the spirit of peace or ultimate manifestation or the quantum field or Mother, Father, God, or however you want to look at this lesson in spiritual physics. It's important to remember that it will bring us whatever we put into it through our heart chakra. So, you know that saying, where our thoughts go, energy flows, right? We've all heard that. And we've heard different variations of that saying about 500 times. It's true. Where our thoughts go, our energy flows. Yet, where our emotions go, our reality is created. So I understand that that's not as catchy, alliteratively. However, it's true. Where our emotions go, our reality is created. And since our third dimension only exists on the other side of the collective construct of that quantum field, it is the projection of the quantum field. This hard particle matter right here, okay, this microphone, everything solid, is on the other side of my expectation of it to be solid on the quantum field. Therefore, we've created our third dimensional physics based upon a collective agreement. That's a true thing. Wait till we get to that in quantum physics. I can't wait. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. It's going to be so fun. So as we recognize this, and as we recognize that the spirit of peace is here to help us ultimately manifest, I don't want to say question, yet the first point of awareness is, wow, what's my heart doing here? Because my heart is creating my perception of reality here. And we tend to make it all about the frontal cortex because we came out of the masculine time frame. And the frontal cortex is our executive masculine thinking center. It's our decision-making center. And thank God we have one. Our limbic system is the feminine. It's how we balance the emotionality within us. And thank goodness we have that. And then we've got a reptilian brain. We've got the back of the brain, which handles a lot of base level emotions. And the amygdala, the fight or flight. I mean, look at the creative, incredible super processor we have between our ears. Look at all of the modalities we have to choose from. That's freaking cool, gang. Okay, that's super cool. So as we look at those options, think about this a minute. What can confuse manifestation? Pushing a thought through the fight or flight amygdala, feminine limbic system, executive decision maker of the frontal cortex, and out the third eye. That's a lot of augmentation. Or just feeling it through the heart chakra. I vote for B. Bueller. I vote for B. So B simplifies our need or our desire. And I want to separate the words need and desire. They are two different things. So we're going to go with desire because I've got the angel who walks with the world just giving me a legal readout on the word need that we don't need to get into right now. So we're going to go with desire. So it really does focus our desire in a way that will bring back our highest good. So I'm going to pause that for just a second, and we're going to talk about some more traditional forms of manifestation. And it's not to degrade them and pick them apart and call them lesser than. It's simply to point out that in the feminine time frame, our quantum field is responding far more readily to impulses placed into it through the heart because of many, many tenets of spiritual physics. And in the masculine time frame, the quantum field was responding greatly to intellectualized pursuits, and it was also responding through the heart. Yet now we have a really hardcore lean towards the heart on the quantum field. So where energy, thoughts flow, energy goes. Well, where our emotions flow, our reality is created. So let's talk about the reality creating, and let's talk about some of our manifestation stages that we've gone through. And we can all look back onto the 90s, and we can see them and the early 2000s, and we can see What the Bleep Do We Know, which is an incredible movie about the quantum physics of manifestation and creating the world around us. And if you have not seen What the Bleep Do We Know, oh my geez Louise, you need to see it. It's so good. Then, of course, we had The Secret, and The Secret was all about manifesting. Now, The Secret was one of our first phases in understanding quantum manifestation, or understanding how our heart chakra plugs into the electrical outlet that is the grid that is quantum and attached to all things. So in the old world, it was very important that we made visual external representations of that which we wanted to embody. Why was that important? Well, it was super important because in the masculine time frame, all desire was represented in the external. How big is your house? How fast is your car? How young is your wife? I mean, it was all externalized. So we would create a vision board, and we would glue pictures of our ultimate partnership. We would glue pictures of our incredible home. We would glue pictures of our bigger car, and we would glue a big pile of money. And all of these were visual aspects, which of course, yes, those, where thoughts go, energy flows. Absolutely. It's not to take away from that. Yet it was an externalized visual. And maybe we felt something when we looked at those visuals. Maybe we felt like, oh, that makes me excited. And the reason we had the vision board, yet we didn't really talk about this during The Secret and What the Bleep Do We Know timeframes, yet we had the vision board because it reminded us to keep our thoughts flowing in that direction. Yeah, well, we didn't talk a whole lot about back then because we were learning, right, in our manifestation. I love this topic. I'm so jazzed about this. We didn't talk a lot about the emotional aspect of how those things made us feel because we were being taught to bring through that which you can see. So there was kind of a breakdown there between the feeling part and the visual part. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because in our feminine time frame now, it's important to really get around the emotional burst of what's happening. And we hear this same principle coming through so many teachers right now. Abraham Hicks has been talking about this forever. And you can go into many modalities. Christ talked about this. Gandhi talked about this. The Buddhas talked about this. Mohammed talked about this. This is the process of aligning the heart with that which gives you joy, which allows ultimate manifestation or the spirit of peace to co-create with you a miracle. Okay? That's how this all works. It is one big connected ball. One is not disconnected from another. And so when I hear people who have read books that talk about the physics of manifestation, and those books talked about being super specific. You got to be super specific when you manifest. You can't just say, I want a better job. You have to say, I want a job with I don't know what, with this company for this amount of money, and it's got to be in this city, and I want this color company car, and I want to have this type of supervisor. Okay, let's just take a deep breath in there. I have to tell you, you can put all that energy into being super specific about the miracle you want to manifest. Or you can actually give it up to universe to bring you something even way more fantastic and amazing than you thought was even possible, because our brains can only hold so much data about what is possible for our highest good. So let me give you an example. There is nothing wrong with having goals. There is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to know exactly what kind of job we want, exactly what kind of spouse we want, whatever. However, what if there's even a more amazing job that you could never, ever get your brain around from your vantage point currently? What if right now, say you've got a job and your most amazing job you could possibly think of is a CEO of a company where you're making $1.9 million a year and you have a staff of people that do all your stuff. And to you right now, in your view of the universe, that is the greatest job ever. It's got benefits, it's got healthcare, it's got a company car. Maybe you even get helicopter rides. Maybe to you, that is the most amazing job you could possibly think of from your current, say, more traditional 9-to-5 job vantage point, right? What if the universe wants to bring you a job imparting knowledge to people on beaches in Fiji where every single thing you've ever needed is brought to you, including your food and your lodging and your money, and someone sponsors you to be amazing? And your job is basically to sit there on the beach and have people plunk down in a lawn chair next to you and you just tell them cool wisdom that you've gathered in your field. Now, you may be hearing this right now going, that is ridiculous. No one would ever pay me to do that. You see that instinct in you? That's called limitation consciousness. So welcome to the portion of our programming where we make good with limitation consciousness. Welcome, limitation consciousness. You are a vehicle placed into the consciousness of humanity by the old world. You're here to limit our perfect perception so that we will stay a cog in the machine. Limitation consciousness, welcome to the conversation. So, we tend to edit our highest miracle because we don't believe it's possible. So we go back to the CEO job because we know those are real because they have Forbes magazine and Forbes talks about CEOs, right? So we know they're real. So we can manifest literally, and it's certainly one way to do it if that's the only way that our brains and our consciousness can get around bringing us the next phase of what gives us joy. However, just try this quantum field thing, gang. I swear to you it works. It works all the time. I see it work in my life day in and day out. I am a living example of plugging into that quantum field and having it bring back to you that which gives you the most joy. I am a living example. I am doing a podcast right now in a gorgeous studio in this beautiful home that is in the Gallatin Valley and Gallatin Gateway outside of Bozeman, Montana, that my heart chakra plugged into the quantum field, found for me, and brought back to me, all within about 2 weeks. And we were moving out of Billings, and I had no idea where we were moving. Okay? Yet I let my heart seek this home out, and it is the most divine place I could possibly ever imagine living. I mean, I could never have imagined a house like this. If I had to drum it up in my head, I would have gotten darn close, but there were certain parts of this house I would have not included. I would have probably had more logs, but then I would have had more flies. And I'm getting used to living in the country. So universe said, girl, don't you be living in a log home right away. You know how many flies that attracts? You're going to have flies out there in the country. You have no idea how to deal with flies. And we had a heck of a summer with flies. So had I moved in to that log home and all those flies and all the moving and opening my spiritual center and getting this studio relocated, I think my freaking head might have just caved in with despair. Okay, so the universe is not going to bring me despair. Universe is going to bring me what gives me the most joy. We have logs in this house. We have log trusses. We have a log entryway. Yet the whole house is not constructed of logs. So I get to learn to manage outside critters like flies. Okay, so this place I'm doing this podcast in right now came from the quantum field, and it didn't come from me pasting a picture on a vision board because that would not have brought me what would have been just right for me at this stage in my life. It came from a desire from my heart to have a beautiful, peaceful, open, gorgeous space where I could download messages for all of you uninterrupted in this gorgeous place. And my wife could open a beautiful business down the road, and we'd have enough room for all of us, and it would just be a majestic temple to transformation. That's what I put into the quantum field. And that's what I got 2 weeks later. And it was weird. I mean, and there's some other things that I can't quite tell you about, and I'm so bummed, but I can't wait till I can tell you there are other things in my life right now that literally came 2 and 3 days after. I laid in bed and I took that electrical cord out of my heart chakra and stuck it right in that electrical socket of the quantum field and lit it up and pulled these greatest desires of my heart through my heart chakra and let them go out my back. And I felt my entire body just erupt in pure possibility. And I engaged that fully, and I made a landing pad for what would give me the most joy in my mind and my soul. I created a space for that miracle to land. And so far it has. So, and I say that, see, that's my old 20th century programming. Look at what just happened there. I hedged. I was like, well, so far it has. Look at that programming that damages us in the old world. Are you kidding me? It's absolutely landed. It's hugely landed because I opened up the landing pad. I engaged that spirit of peace. I engaged ultimate manifestation without hesitation, without fear, without that crappy jackass thing I just did on this podcast going, well, I think it's going to stick. I mean, oh, come on. Good God. I'm glad that happened, actually. I'm glad you heard that happen because that's what we do to our miracles, right? Yet I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, this has landed for me. And it's because I allowed it. It's because I made a space for it. Now, I'm not anything magical that you're not. Believe me, I'm not. I mean, I understand some of these principles because I work with these angels, yet I'm still a person. So I have to wade through my own bullcrap to get to the other side of executing some of these particular principles. Yet the one thing I do have is an unbelievable excitement about learning new things. So in this quantum field exercise, in this manifestation exercise, in this co-creation of miracles with the spirit of peace, we can bring through whatever world we want. So if I'm going to edit the dickens out of it mentally, I can do that. And it will bring me what I'm asking for. Yet sometimes what it's trying to bring me is so much greater than that. And we're not used to giving the universe room to be the universe, are we? No, we're taught that we've got to control it all. And, I get that we need to be specific and, be careful what you ask for kind of thing. Yet I would really like to throw out the be careful what you ask for modality because it really leads out in fear. Well, be careful. Universe is going to ram you over the head with a tire iron because you didn't put the preposition in the right place. And so now you're brain damaged forever. That's your fault for be carefuling what you asked for not enough. I mean, really? Wow, humanity. Paranoid much? And control freaky much? Do we really think that we have the power to ruin our lives? We do have that power to perceive our lives as ruined, yet let me tell you what the quantum field is constantly doing. We do have the power to bring to us some really hardcore lessons. We have the power to shut our life down and be in a pity pot and a bucket of poo instantly by making some bad decisions. However, the quantum field is connected to our hearts. And here's where we're going to fuse the idea of you actually taking the little vacuum cleaner cable and plugging it into the outlet that's part of the quantum field. Guess what? That vacuum cleaner cable is hardwired to the quantum field. Now, I use the analogy of you actually taking it out of your heart chakra and consciously plugging it in because conscious willpower, decision-making, desire is a key component in creating the helipad for the miracle to land on. I mean, we have to have some effort here, okay? Yet do know that past that analogy I gave you to focus the heart's intention, the heart is hardwired to the quantum field always. So know that. So if you're walking around in a state of choosing to engage the lesson of constant disappointment and heartbreak, and notice how I said that. If you're walking around choosing to engage the lesson of constant heartache and disappointment, because we're going to feel heartache, we're going to feel disappointment, yet if we're choosing to engage that lesson in perpetuity, not just as a teacher, but as an identity, as a way of life, then what did we learn today? We learned that our third dimension is literally is on the other side of the collective projection of the quantum field. So if my hardwired heart to this quantum field, which as we've now seen, responds to all energy that I plug into it, if my quantum field is being affected by my hardwired heart in a way that's saying despair, awfulness, this is my expectation, then it's going to turn that grid, this kind of purpley, bluey, gicky, green, slimy, black, brown color, and it's just going to go out there and it's going to move much slower. When we push despair and heartache and an expectation of pure poo through the quantum field, through our heart, we can move that energy. Yet it's a slower vibration. It's a lower vibration. And the spirit of peace is going, oh, you really want to co-create a bucket of poo with me? Really? Really, says the ultimate manifestation field. Really, says the quantum physics field. Really, says Mother, Father, God. You want me to co-create a bucket of poo? A stinky, weird, drippy bucket of stinky poo in a tin can so it's warm when you pick it up? You really want me to go there? Okay, I'll go there. Because if it's what you want, I love you enough to believe it's what you need. So here you go. So the quantum field begins to ripple. And it's this slow, browny, Grinch color, greeny crawl through that same grid. And it oozes out and it goes all directions in the field. And it takes longer, but it will find what you're looking for. And you look over and there's this big brown bloated waves coming back to you from this grid, just full of poo. Here it comes, right for your hardwired heart chakra, and into you. The grossest the universe could possibly find, because it's what you desired. So now our heart chakra is just full of poo, right? How is it easy to feel good when your heart chakra is full of poo? It's not. So then we're sitting there going, great universe, I know you hated me. You just dumped poo in my heart chakra. And the spirit of peace, the ultimate manifestation field, the quantum field, Mother, Father, God is just throwing its hands in the air going, but you asked for this. I'm trying to meet you where you're at, man. Why do you hate me so much? Why are you making me the bad guy? Come on, I worked hard for all that poo. Come on. So how do we then take the heart chakra during this time of holidays, which can oftentimes be full of a lot of poo that we've pumped out into the quantum field and gotten a tremendous amount back? How do we take that and squeeze it out? Well, I'll tell you. We do it by literally replacing it with something else. How do you unplug a pipe? Well, you stick a wire down it, or you take a plunger to it, and you move it. So if you've been having that experience of a lot of pain that's been pumped into that quantum field, and it makes it so hard to actually see the world past the pain, because that third dimension is on the other side of all that poo that we pump into it. So our world, our physical world that comes back to us is full of despair, and it's full of hurt, and it's full of pain, and we're hardwired to it through our quantum field, through our heart. So here's the knowledge that we can change that at any time. We've just got to change the emotional narrative in the heart chakra. So people we talk about changing our thinking all the time. And changing your thinking and your perception is super important. Yet it's also super important to recognize that to change our thinking, sometimes it's important to begin to change our emotional expectation in a situation. And that's hard because that involves the T word. It involves trusting. So the spirit of peace comes to us this time of year because we make a space for the spirit of peace. And it's trying to knock on our door and say, hello, hello, hello. I'd like to help change your narrative. Hello, anybody home? Hello. And we may be sitting there with all of our pain and our wounds and this blah that just barfed into our heart chakra. And we're like, go away, you phony bucket of poo. And it's like, no, I'm not the bucket of poo. That's what came to you through the quantum field. I'm the spirit of peace. I'm ultimate manifestation. I want to help you rinse your pipes out. So how do we do that? Well, we can definitely change our thought process. We can change our minds. And that's going to help change our emotional vibration. And how do we do that? Well, I'll tell you, humans, we're so easy. Oh, thank God. We're so easy. We make it so hard, but we're so simple. You know, the old saying in the Bible and in the Quran and in all of these Vedic teachings that the eyes are the window to the soul. What you cast your glance upon, where you place your energies in absorption through the mind and through the brain and through the eyeballs, our emotions are affected by what we see. And our emotions are deeply affected by what we hear. So sit down and plug in some earbuds or some earphones. I prefer earphones myself as a creepy audiophile. Audiophile, people, creepy audiophile. Look up the word. Come on. Don't go there. So I prefer headphones because they allow us to hear in a more organic way rather than shoving sound down our ear canals. And plug in the sound of the ocean. Plug in the sound of trees through the wind, wind through the trees, rather. If you can't get out in nature, if you don't happen to live in my house where you just walk down the road and there's pine trees waving and there's Yellowstone Park, if you don't live in that environment, the brain is triggered primarily through smell, sound, and sight being the third. Sight. Sound, smell are the two that trigger emotion in the brain, but the eyes are also windows to the soul. So if you're having a hard time wringing the heart chakra out because it's got too much poo back up in it, do your best not to look at stuff that brings in more duress from the quantum field, because that triggers that heart chakra to react, and the heart chakra is hardwired to the quantum field, and the quantum field is bound by spiritual law to bring you that which you put into it. Right? Which is why I went through the intentional visualization with all of you about plugging your vacuum cleaner cord in, because that is an intentional send out rather than the unintentional send out that we're continually doing. And we can get to a point in our daily lives where we can augment our perception so much that we are so, I don't want to say positive, yet we are operating in the love harmonic to the point where everything that we're putting out is in the love harmonic, and almost everything that's coming back is in the love harmonic. And then we create a feedback love loop. And then our world, our external world is created, our third dimensional world is created in that image or that projection, because that's what we're actually calling for. So if you're having a hard time adjusting your emotional narrative right now, smell something that gives you joy. Maybe it's a chocolate chip cookie. Maybe it's grandma's brownies. Maybe you just take a day and you unplug all of your devices and you cut that EMF in your house and you put on some Christmas music or some holiday tunes or some music that makes you feel good, whatever that is, or some nature sounds which makes you feel puffy. And you cook a meal that your grandmother cooked for you. You go right down that recipe. You create those smells and you eat that meal. And you listen and you smell these emotions. They will change the narrative of that heart chakra, gang. They will change that narrative. And when that narrative is changed, guess what? All that brown goo in the heart chakra just gets squeezed out and expunged through the back. It goes out the back. And that goes into the ethers, and there are beings that come along and chomp it up, just like tilapia that eat the bass poo. Did you know that tilapia eat poo? They're bottom feeders, so just know that. So it's just like that. We have creatures out there in our ethers that eat the negative. So out comes the poo, and then we start filling the heart chakra with joy. And once you get into that space of readjusting where you're in that moment, do your best not to let the collective executive frontal cortex center of the brain take over the discussion, because that's what we've trained ourselves to do. We've trained our executive center to protect us. Well, don't get too comfortable, because at any moment, poo could come to the door and dump on your head, like that scene in Carrie, only with poo. Okay, that's what our frontal cortex wants to do for us, is protect us. So stay in the heart center, stay in the limbic system. When our heart is exploding, when we're having those moments of utter joy in the brain and it's releasing all that dopamine and that serotonin, and we've got those high chemicals that are flooding our consciousness, guess which center of the brain's the most happy during all of that? Your limbic system. Your limbic system's going, oh, thank you for the back rub. I love you so much. I just love you. The limbic system wants to bring us love, okay? It wants to bring us love. So, how do we change the emotional narrative? Yes, and watch what you put through the eyes, yet engage the smell, engage the ears, unplug anything that's going to distract you. And our frontal cortex wants to engage language. So if you're having a hard time replacing your narrative, then you're going to want music that has extremely positive lyrics because the frontal cortex is going to go right to those lyrics. Or music that's just instrumental. Maybe put on some classical music with no lyrics. So the frontal cortex is going, oh man, really? And the limbic system is like, let me process this. Let me process this. I'm creating happy chemicals. Let me process this. And eat your spaghetti, okay? Little carbs don't hurt. I'm just saying. So here you are, rewriting your narrative and that heart chakra. And while you're in that puffy space, and that's a word that I've come up with, puffy, like you're just puffy, like you're floating in this puffy cotton ball of goodness. You're like existing in the middle of the best cotton candy wad ever. Like nothing awful can get to you because you're in the most awesome memory foam piece of existence ever. Then begin plugging in all those things to the quantum field you can't wait to experience. Oh, I can't wait to have the perfect partnership to share this moment with. Oh man, I really, this is what it's going to feel like. This goodness is what it's going to feel like when I get that perfect job that I've always wanted. It's going to feel just like this. This moment of joy is what it's going to feel like because I'm not going to have any bills anymore I've got to pay because they'll all be paid off. This is what it feels like to be in peace. And the spirit of peace says, amen. I got you. Thank you for that. And your quantum field ignites with this brilliant red that goes everywhere and this pink and this orange and this yellow, like a flippin' rainbow that blows up. And it goes through all of those lines that are plugged up and brown and goopy and just blows all the poo off. And it erupts in this massive rainbow of possibility. And it goes out and brings you all of these things back in your life. And just make sure that you're ready to receive them. Just make sure you don't do what I did a few minutes ago and say, well, yeah, so far so good, it's holding. Oh, geez, don't be that person. Be better than me. And be able to say, oh, geez, yeah. Because the moment that you're experiencing, that moment is what's actually real. That moment of peace is what's actually real, gang. Because the quantum field doesn't know the difference between what you imagine, what you hate, what you're afraid of, what you're worried about, or what you truly love and wish you had. It is responding to all things through the heart chakra. Now, I don't say this to make you completely paranoid. Like, oh my God, I have to watch everything I feel. Oh my God. Oh. Come on. Don't go there. Don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. All right. I'm telling you this because the spirit of peace has been ushered in during this time frame. And you can keep that spirit of peace, that ultimate manifestation field. You can keep that Mother, Father, God energy with you all year round. If you get into this practice of just lowering yourself up to your armpits into the graph paper, and it's all white and pretty, and then take your vacuum cord and wait for that electrical socket on the grid to pop up, and then just get ready and smack it down in there and throw the best feelings you've got into that quantum field and watch it light up and watch it turn dark and watch it turn into space and just float in that field. You can do that whenever you want. And pretty soon it becomes second nature. So why do I bring this up around the holidays? Because the spirit of peace is upon, especially in North America, especially in areas that observe these types of holidays, it's upon the earth. And it's here because we want to co-create with it. So let's use that spirit. There's nothing wrong with it. It wants us to co-create with it. And it doesn't mean you have to go all Mary Poppins, happy dappy. You know, there are myths out there that, you can't bring negativity in or it will ruin your life. The bottom line there is that we will experience negativity as a teacher. So what? Experience it. Let it go. Yet get on the other side of it and begin co-creating the things in your life that you love. So if you're struggling this holiday season, if you're really struggling, again, change up the emotional narrative with the eyes, the nose, and the ears. Put something in your mouth that tastes good, change it up. And in that moment, once you get that space there, once the limbic is working for you, then blow all your greatest hopes and wishes through that heart chakra. If you right now are struggling with something in your life, I mean, just frickin' face on the floor with life's boot against the back of your head and you're getting a carpet print on the left side of your face. I mean, it's just bad, okay? Take a moment to breathe, even on the floor, even with the boot in the back of your head, and immerse yourself. Make that carpet into the quantum field. Make that carpet into the grid paper. And just know that all you've got to do is open that heart chakra and you put that plug in that grid paper. You let it materialize right under your chest as you're smushed to the floor. And then you open up that little hatch in the heart chakra and you let that little cable just go blink right down into it. And then you tune out that boot, you tune out the floor because now it's turned into a grid. And you start pumping into that floor. You start pumping into that grid. Every amazing thing you could possibly usher through your heart. And yeah, it's a little bit of a discipline in changing your perception. And it does require taking the focus off of the boot in the back of your head. Just take the focus off of it. Because remember, energy goes where thoughts flow, right? So just train the brain to say, yeah, boot, carpet, whatever, but I'm going somewhere else. I'm going within the heart. Because remember, your third dimension is on the other end of the projection of the emotional hardwiring to the quantum field from the heart chakra. It's crazy how this works. Now, this is, yes, I can feel this in our podcast. I can feel people going, well, I've been victimized from some pretty terrible people. So are you telling me I called that in? No, I am not. That's not at all what I'm saying. I am talking about not things that have happened to you. We're talking about bringing miracles through you. So that's a little different place of power, isn't it, right? And is there really any power that we have? Yes, we have the power to direct our emotionality, and we have the power to decide where we place our focus. And certainly I'm not trying to take away the survivors of horrendous victimization. That's not at all what we're talking about today. We're talking about bringing miracles through us that offset deep wounds. We're talking about engaging the spirit of peace in a way that will elevate the entire human race. And we're talking about how to shift our focus when all we've got coming back through our heart chakra is that poo in the quantum field, because that's kind of what we've been pumping into it for a while, right? We're talking about how to change all of that. We're talking about peace. We're talking about what the Bible talks about as the second coming of Christ. We're talking about a transfiguration of our reality that could literally happen overnight if we all were just willing to engage this ultimate manifestation, this Mother, Father, God field. If we were willing to play with the spirit of peace and trust that there's something so much greater out there, a system that we have the opportunity to hardwire into, no matter how god-awful our situation, no matter how rotten our past, no matter how much wounding we carry within, at any moment, we can hardwire into that quantum field and we can change the narrative. And that is the power of miracles. And that is the power of you as a human being. That is the ultimate power of manifestation. And let us engage this during this time frame of the spirit of peace being on the earth. It's not some creepy religious thing. It's an issue of spiritual physics. We have a spiritual physics ethers window here. We have a vortex that is open, that is saying, bring me your miracles and I will bring them back to you. And gang, listen. I am speaking from a perspective of experience in this area. And I used to be a person who would sit at the bottom of my rabbit hole in the entertainment industry, wondering why I didn't have the right agent, the right this, the right that, waiting for some gatekeeper to come along and open up the world for me so I could really go to my next successful level. And I just victimized myself like a mother because that's what I was taught. So this has been a 15-year process for me in learning this. Yet it doesn't have to take 15 years because we're in the feminine time frame. And stuff just happens like that now. And this is why I'm this excited to bring you this podcast today. Because none of this is wasted. And you can all use these spiritual physics immediately. So start this practice. Start watching those miracles roll into you. Start expecting the phone call. Start looking for those emails that are going to change your life once you've plugged your little cord consciously into the quantum field and allowed the heart to emit its greatest joy. That is the gift of the spirit of peace. That is what we've created collectively during this holiday season. And maybe we can push into that quantum field love for those who do not know or don't even understand how to access the quantum field. Because guess what? Their heart chakra is connected to the quantum field too. So every time you put hope into that quantum field, someone else is positively affected because we're all connected. And every time you put poo into it, somebody else is affected by poo because we're all connected. So keep that in mind, gang. Keep that in mind. You are a miracle maker. The spirit of peace is upon us. The ultimate manifestation field, it's got a ripe landing pad for you because we are willing to engage it. And it's there 365. It's just really hot and open right now because we're willing to engage it. So take advantage of that. It's like taking advantage of, really great airfares. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm so excited for you all to bring in your miracles. I love you all so much. I hope you can feel that today. I know the brilliance in each one of you. I can feel it. I can see it. I can feel you through the quantum field right in my heart. And I am so thrilled for everything magnificent that is coming for you. Don't be afraid to trust the spiritual physics around you. They existed a long time before we ever did. We are the third dimension on the other side of a manifested idea. Think about that for a second. I love you all. Go create miracles, and I will see you next week.